There's some conferences in college football that going into the season, there is a clear-cut number one favorite. Like, look at the ACC. We got Clemson. They are odds on far and away the favorite there. Then you got other conferences like the Big Ten, the SEC, where like two teams have separated themselves from the pack heading into the season. And then there's conferences like the Big 12 where it is just pure chaos. The odds makers have thrown up their hands and basically just said to the country, here, you guys figure it out. I am pumped to talk about the Big 12 today. It is College Football Tailgate, Big 12 Preview, Part 1. I'm Dan Watkins. John McKechnie is here. John, I'm beyond excited. I've been looking forward to this show in particular since we launched this thing.
Yeah, it's upon further review, when we started this show, it's like, oh, the Big 12 one's going to be crazy. And then, we both have done our due diligence in looking over these teams. And you know what? I still feel like I don't know any or have any stronger leans than I did, back in July. Even after all the research and looking at who's coming back, who's not, all the schedules, things like that. Nope. It's still just it's almost like a fool's errand to predict that, but which is perfect for us as fools.
Yeah, and I love one of the things I love about this conference is there's so much continuity and returning starters and guys that this is like your March Madness, your fifth year senior that you're like, oh, that guy's still in college. There is so much of that in the Big 12. I love it. I think Bill Connolly did his returning production chart, and I think 9 of the top 30 teams in returning production are in this conference, which is just awesome. A lot of familiar faces, awesome coaches. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. Where do you want to start with this thing? How do you view the Big 12? Because when I on Saturday, when I turn my television on and I flip to a Big 12 game, I know I'm in for a much different 2 to 3 hours than I am watching any other conference in college football.
Well, I think one of my favorite little factoids about anything in college football in recent years is they did away with the preseason poll for the Big 12. And why did they do that? For media days. Why did they do that? Because last year they all had Arizona State finishing in dead last. And what they do? They won the conference and they made it to the college football playoff, and they made it to the quarterfinals in the college football playoff. The team that everyone predicted to finish last. So up is down in this conference and down is up. We had last year Oklahoma State, who, to your point about returning production, they were everyone's darling kind of because of that.
Yep.
Ollie Gordon was coming off of the crazy season they had. Alan Bowman in his 15th season of college football. You had guys like Dazon Stribling, who's now at Ole Miss. So you had all this stuff that's okay, Oklahoma State, it's all right there for them. They face planted. So the pressure's on teams like Texas Tech, I think, is one that comes to mind for me this year that it's getting a lot of hype. And Arizona State obviously is going to have to prove that last year was no fluke. So, that the top of this conference is just fascinating because there really is no separation. And that just kind of when the dust settles, there's going to be a couple of just massive failure seasons from the top of the table here.
Yeah, so I want to share my screen here and pull up the Big 12 odds board for those of you who are watching on YouTube. If you're on podcast, just go take a look at the Big 12 Conference Championship game winner page over on FanDuel. We got 3 teams tied to be the favorite here. Kansas State, Texas Tech, and ASU are all at 5.5 to 1, plus 550. Next step down is Utah at 6 to 1. Then we got Baylor at plus 650. TCU is there at plus 850. And then we have the drop off to Iowa State and Kansas in that 13-14 to 1 range. But last year, John, as you mentioned, Arizona State goes on and they win the whole damn thing in this conference. They were 100 to 1. Some books in the preseason. Now, I don't know. They have not. We got UCF at 75 to 1. I think books learned their lesson not to doubt any team in this conference just because it's berserk and could just be total bananas all season long.
I think we're going to get it. More of the same, more just insanity this year, and I'm excited to see kind of what Baylor and TCU are able to do in particular. I think a lot of people are pretty stoked on what they have coming back, particularly at quarterback. Sawyer Robertson, Josh Hoover, 2 really exciting guys, but you move down the list, and like there's still some notable quarterbacks and notable teams here that I think are going to be pretty interesting. And then West Virginia is like almost the epitome of the Big 12. Nobody knows what that's going to look like, and you got Rich Rod back there, so that's fun.
So here's what we're going to do on this show today. We're going to preview a bunch of teams. I think we're going to go through Utah. Kyle Whittingham is back again in Salt Lake City. They're trying to make up for the disastrous first year in the Big 12. We're going to talk about the defending champs, Arizona State. We're going to hit on Baylor, Texas Tech, TCU, Cincinnati, Houston as well. Purposely, we are saving Iowa State, Kansas, and some of the other schools for part 2 of this thing because, well, Kansas State and Iowa State, Farmageddon is happening in Ireland next week, week 0. Kansas, by the way, guys, also has a week 0 game. So we figured we'd save those teams for part 2 of this thing where we can actually do a little bit of a game breakdown too and for what we expect to happen in week 0 there. But we're going to get to those teams in a minute. Before we do that, we have basically breaking news today. The Michigan punishments, and I put that in air quotes for those of you who are listening on podcast, have come out. Pete Thamel and also Dan Wetzel, I believe, on Yahoo or ESPN have collaborated to get these punishments out. And John, this is just, I was kind of outraged when I first read these, but then as I started to think more and take a breath, I don't know what I was expecting because I feel basically what the NCAA did, one, they don't really have much power over Michigan. When it comes to the playoff, the college football playoff is a totally different entity than the NCAA. And for that, we are all grateful because the NCAA, once they get their grubby little paws on things, would just totally screw it up. But essentially, $20 million fine. Jim Harbaugh cannot coach in college football for 14 years. Guys, he's not coming back, by the way. Yeah. What else we got? Connor Stallions he can't be a Michigan coach or anything for 8 years, and then Sharon Moore gets one more game tacked on to his already 2-game suspension that the school imposed. My big takeaway from this whole thing: I hate that schools can pick and choose when their coaches get suspended. Sharon Moore is going to miss Week 3 and 4 this season when they play Central Michigan and then they go at Nebraska. And then he's going to miss Week 1 next year when they open up, I believe, with Western Michigan. So this whole thing is just I don't know. If the NCAA is high-fiving themselves today, you guys totally missed the boat.
Yeah, it's farcical. In Michigan is one of those programs that's just so heavily levered financially. $20 million is a lot of money, but it's nothing that Michigan,
not to Michigan,
in the interest of their football program, drop in the bucket. They'll be just fine. Ultimately it rings hollow. I had kind of forgotten about this for a while, but man, I'm just kind of glad it's over because I don't know how done with it you were during the 2023 season. But my God, you go on Twitter and any report drops and there's 15 Buckeye investigative reporter random guys in there that are either on their soapbox clutching their pearls or cosplaying as lawyers. And they've all been kind of saying that Michigan's going to get eviscerated. They're going to get their butts handed to them as a result of this investigation. That obviously ended up not really being the case. I'm just glad it's over more than anything, and definitely agree with you where Michigan kind of getting to pick and choose when their coach gets suspended. That it just what was already going to be kind of a laughable thing becomes it's they're making their own jokes. It's they're almost on an inside joke at this point.
Pretty much. The one thing though about this whole Stallions saga, whatever, it has produced some pretty funny moments. We had the thing of him on the sideline, right, where he's got the sunglasses on. He's dressed up as the CMU coach. In all of this, he wasn't employed by the university, but he just loved Michigan football so much. He went so far and go check out Pete Thamel's Twitter page. Go check out the article he wrote everything up on ESPN. Stallions smashed his phone. He threw his phone in a pond. He threw his hard drive in a pond. Just some absolutely ridiculous things. And then, the conspiracy theories that have come out of this, that like Ryan Day hired a private investigator because he just couldn't figure out how Michigan keeps beating them. And yet they still continue to beat him, even though Stallions had nothing to do with 2024 that we know of. It's just pure insanity. And I mean, at the end of the day, though, all this kind of stuff is just one of the reasons why I love this sport so much and why college football is just the best.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I might be misremembering, but like it's funny how like Venmo can kind of be like a recurring theme of like these college football scandals. Like obviously with the John Mateer stuff, but like wasn't there some Connor Stallions like expensing things or just,
I think so.
Or buying his tickets like his whole public transactional history was available to see on Venmo as well. So it's funny how people just don't seem to be able to learn their lessons, and it always ends up coming up in these type of scandals and investigations. Yeah,
you can't hide anything in the digital age. That's for sure. Nope. Like you can't whatsoever. But
you can also just flip it to private, and you won't have this problem quite as much.
Or you could do that. You could do that for sure. Absolutely. Or just pay cash as well. So, anyways. Those are just some thoughts on the Michigan thing. I don't want to go any further into this because like my head's going to just explode. But yeah, one other thing that did come from this that was just absolutely fantastic. Remember when Harbaugh was suspended for the Penn State game? He was in a hotel like down the street, right? And Sharon Moore is crying after the game. We love you, Jim. We love you. We won this one for you. That was one of the best moments, and that is like when I went full on. I'm out on Sharon Moore as a head coach at that moment. But that was one of the best scenes of 2023 was Sharon Moore crying after that Penn State game.
Unfortunately, it was pretty cool of Michigan to literally not throw the football in the second half and win the game that way. Like that's too bad because we need to laugh more at Sharon for the dude, he's fine. Harbaugh's right down the street. He'll be back.
Yeah,
it's all good.
He will be back. You saw him yesterday. You're going to see him when he got on the plane tonight. There's no need to cry. But anyways, moving on. Let's get back to the task at hand. Let's talk about the Big 12. Let's talk about some of these teams. Let's really dive in here. Let's start in Salt Lake City. Let's talk about Utah. We got a win total of 7.5 for the Utes this season, heavily juiced to the over, -165. BetMGM is the best price right now. The under you can play at +142 on FanDuel. Kyle Whittingham, there were some rumors, right, that he was going to step away, might retire, but no, he said, I'm not going anywhere. I can't step away after that disastrous first season in the Big 12. Injuries and inconsistency last year, John, led to a 7-game conference losing streak for the Utes last year. They do have some good returning production, including 4 guys on the offensive line. Dampier he transfers in. He looks like he's going to be a stud here coming over from New Mexico. Was it New Mexico or New Mexico State?
New Mexico. New Mexico State was Pavia.
That's right. New Mexico. He comes in. We no longer, I guess we can still do the Cam Rising joke if we want, but he is no longer in school. So anyways, Utah, what do you make of the Utes this season, year 2 in the Big 12?
I'm willing to buy back in. Last year obviously went poorly, and I think, you could say straight up that they didn't play the way that, we're accustomed to seeing. So, I can't chalk it all up to injuries. I do think that, other teams either outclassed them or, the coaching edge that it felt like they had for so long in the Pac-12 kind of evaporated. And some of the toughness, too, felt like it went away from this Utah team. So that needs to come back in a big way, of course. But I'm betting that it can. I don't think that Whittingham is a guy that goes out sad. And I think that I have to give credit to experienced coaches who can kind of self-scout and be like, okay, I need to change things. I need to do things differently. I need to not have Cam Rising as my quarterback for the 15th year in a row. I'm gonna look at New Mexico and Devin Dampier. We'll talk about him more when we're doing some quick hitters, but big fan of his work. I think he ran for 19 touchdowns last season at New Mexico. Still kind of coming along as a passer, so we'll see what the jump up in competition level really does for Dampier. But man, I think that if it breaks right for Dampier, I think we're looking at possibly upwards of 1,000 rushing yards, 15 rushing touchdowns. you tack on like 20 passing touchdowns and like 2,500 passing yards. That's really, really dangerous. That's a ton of production coming from that quarterback spot. They brought in their offensive coordinator as well, Wayshawn Parker, coming in on top of that. So a lot to like about this Utah team. I'm willing to give them a pass for last year, and I'm willing to say that I'm on this bandwagon for the Utes this year.
Yeah, and he's also bringing his offensive coordinator from New Mexico with him. Jason Beck transfers to Utah as well. I guess you can call it like he makes a lateral move, but it's technically a move up. He was 11th in the FBS last season in total yards. He had over 2,700 passing yards, had over 1,100 rushing yards, 31 touchdowns. I think that's going to fit in really well with this team. Utah was one of, if not the most unluckiest teams in all of college football last season. Now, you look at this schedule, they get Texas Tech, Arizona State, and Kansas State all at home this year. This does set up very nicely for Utah. And as we've learned in the past so many years in the Pac-12, Salt Lake City is not an easy place to go play because you are going to get punched in the mouth repeatedly for 60 minutes.
That's absolutely right. So, drawing like kind of the top teams in the conference at home, that's it. That could be like, in a conference where it's so tight and it's so the margins are so thin. The favorable home schedule could be something that kind of helps elevate this Utah team and just for everyone's edification and information. I do have a Heisman ticket on Devin Dampier this year. I like to get a little squirrely with my Heisman action. I think this year is a good year to do it because I don't think the likes of Arch Manning or Ty Simpson or Garrett Nussmeier are all that appealing at their current odds. So I think you look at a Big 12 that's as wide open as it is. If Dampier does the things that I was just talking about, we're talking about 35 total touchdowns and a ton of yardage on top of it, and Utah comes out on top and they make it to the college football playoff. That's a compelling Heisman case, I think, right there. And you're looking at 50-1 at most books. I've seen it was like 80-1 earlier this summer. So I think some other people are also picking up on the signal. But if you're looking at true like long shots that have a little bit of juice to them, I think you could do a lot worse than Devin Dampier.
Absolutely, and as we mentioned, a lot of things to like there for him in this situation. He brings his offensive coordinator with him. As John mentioned, Kyle Whittingham looks like he's willing to change. Hopefully not too much, because I do love the image of him pulling up to training camp or fall camp on the motorcycle. That is pretty badass.
Strong, very strong.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, so go ahead, please.
Last Whittingham anecdote. Some fan asked him on Twitter, like, this is years ago, that she's like, how do you go the whole game without going to the bathroom? And he just quote tweets, I have an unusually large bladder, so it's not an issue for me. Next question.
Awesome. I love that. All right, let's pull up their schedule here. Let's take a look. As I mentioned, 7.5 is the win total, plus 600, 6-1 to win the Big 12. John, I like how this sets up here, and if things break right, especially with Dampier, I see Utah in that championship game in Arlington at Jerry World come December. You look at the toughest games here, Texas Tech, Arizona State, Kansas State, all at home in Salt Lake City. I really like the bounce back. I really like the over 7.5. I would even consider an alt total with Utah this year.
I would as well. I think that this is kind of my favorite team from this particular tier in the Big 12. I think you want to take bites at different stages, like unlike the Big Ten or the SEC, where the odds get so long so fast, and you're like, there's just simply no way that Maryland is going to rise up and win the Big Ten. Like, you could make cases for like 7 or 8 of these teams pretty easily. I mean, like the 8th lowest team in the odds is still like 18-1, and like BYU, I don't think is even dead at 27-1.
No, it's a wacky conference. I do feel like this year the books are going to be a little bit closer and a little sharper than they were a year ago, allowing that 100-1 to come in. Yeah, I think Utah is definitely worthy of an investment, because I really do think that they're going to be playing in that game at least, and that would open yourself up for a nice hedge opportunity come December. All right, let's talk about the defending champs. John, I don't know about you, but I'll just ask you. Do you have a team that you have like no affiliation with, no reason that you would ever root for, like really just no reason whatsoever that you should like this team, but yet you just find yourself falling in love with the school and everything about them, because that's how I feel about Arizona State. I've been to Tempe once. I've walked around the stadium. It was beautiful. The little mountain there with the ASU, the people sitting on the rock and the mountain looking in, like, I loved it. I fell in love. And then they go out last year and were just one of the greatest stories in college football. I love the Sun Devils. I love Kenny Dillingham. I mean, how can you not?
I agree. I mean, Dillingham is that dude. I love the path that he's taken, from Memphis to Oregon to here being the head coach. And, like, the situation that he walked into at Arizona State was pretty dire, if you think about it. Like, Herm Edwards left an absolute mess for the next guy to clean up. And for a guy that hadn't been the head coach before, he's really turned that around so quickly. And again, kind of like we led the show off with, it's like they were written off completely going into last year. They had to ride a running back who's in his second year out of Sacramento State that they pulled Scadaboo from, and some freshman quarterback in Sam Levitt, who's heard of this guy, and some guy named Jordan Tyson, and it all comes together beautifully. Now this year, no Scadaboo. That's a huge kind of question mark for how you replace his production, and I feel like there was impacts that Scadaboo made that you can't really measure in the box score, like the way that he could just tenderize a defense completely. So that's going to be tough, but I think that your kind of brain trust of Kenny and Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson, I think it at least gives these guys a shot to contend once again in the Big 12.
So as you were hinting at there, these guys have the second most returning production in the entire country, according to Bill Connolly. They are kind of like I feel like a little bit of the opposite or the inverse of Utah here, where they went 6-1 in one-score games in the regular season last year. They had a ton of luck in the turnover department. I think they were plus 14. I mean, all those close wins and stuff, it's just like, I hate to say this, but like, is some natural regression coming here for the Sun Devils?
It's likely. When you win that way, I think your Pythagorean ends up looking a little bit different, and you kind of expect things to bounce the wrong way once or twice the year following. I mean, I come back to that BYU game, which is kind of when the Arizona State officially became like are they going to actually win the Big 12 type of team? And that ending was so wonky, and it was sort of a encapsulation of that season there for Arizona State. So I think that they come back down to earth a little bit, but I don't think they crater by any means. That I think comes with a belief in the quarterback and the head coach.
Yeah, so they obviously have to replace Cam Scadaboo, and what better way to do that than by bringing in a running back from Army? Anytime I see a transfer come out of one of the service academies, my first thought is always, is that allowed? Like, is that legal? Are they allowed to leave? Like, are they deserting? What is going on there? But anyways, Kanye Udo comes in, second team American, whatever, AAC. Second team AAC last year for Army. Good rusher. He should fit in no problem. I mean, Scadaboo looks like your prototypical military guy almost with his build. So I think he's going to slot in from the profile standpoint pretty nicely there for the Sun Devils. But what do you know about him, this Udo kid?
Well, to your point there, that going from Army to Arizona State is like college football Rumspringa or something. Like we're going to find out what he really likes, because he gets to test out how the other half lives after being in this disciplined environment up in West Point. Now you go to the most lawless college out there. There's another guy, Mike Wright, who's a quarterback. He's been at Vanderbilt, Miss State, Northwestern, and ECU, as far as running the full gamut of college experiences. But Udo, and he's not going to be able to take on the full rushing share that Scadaboo was eating up last year, but that's okay. Kyson Brown is another guy that I think can eat up some carries there. And I think that Arizona State has recruited well. It's not just Jordan Tyson that's going to be able to contribute. I like their tight end, Shimon Mateer. I hope I didn't butcher his name. Too bad. Jalen Moss and Malik McLean are other guys to keep an eye on from this receiving group. So, we're not saying that they're totally reloading, but I think that there's reason here to be like, all right, I see this Arizona State team making noise once again.
Yeah, don't sleep on Sam Levitt as a rusher either. He had over 100 carries a year ago as the quarterback, so that could definitely, we could see that tick up too. That wouldn't surprise me this season. But John, as we look towards ASU's schedule here, right, we have an 8.5 for the win total, minus 106 on FanDuel here to the over. The under's at minus 110. Very tough road schedule, right? At Baylor, at Utah, at Iowa State. Plus, they have to go to Colorado later on this season when the Buffaloes will be coming off of a bye, too. So that could be a tricky spot in November. I love Sam Levitt, but I'm just curious about that natural regression here from a year ago. Can they get back to 9 wins this season and threaten for the Big 12?
I'm going to say no. Like we let off the show, one of these teams from the top 4 or 6, however you want to scale it from the Big 12 odds, is going to fall relatively flat, or at least short of expectations. I don't see the faceplant coming for Arizona State necessarily, but I do see them taking a bit of a step back, enough to where I'm on the under for their 8.5.
Yeah, so I'll pull up the schedule here for those of you who are watching on YouTube. Arizona State, they open up at home against Northern Arizona. They have at Mississippi State this year, Texas State. So you get those 3 games to really get in here and get in the groove before they have to go to Baylor towards the end of September on September 20th. That's going to be a fun game. We'll be talking about Baylor here in a few minutes. But yeah, tough road schedule at Baylor, at Utah, at Iowa State. Really, if you want to get to that 9 wins, you need them to win 1, if not 2 of those 3 games, which is not going to be an easy task.
Yeah, I mean, look at that stretch generally right there. To start off their Big 12 slate, you got Baylor, TCU, Utah, and Texas Tech, all pretty much in a row with a bye in there before the Utah game. But those are the first 4 conference opponents that they have. That's true test of mettle right off the jump as far as that's concerned.
Absolutely. All right, so before we move on to our next team, just want to remind you guys, you can find us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, wherever. At College Football Tailgate on YouTube. We are at CFB25 on Twitter, at CFB Tailgate on TikTok. If you could do us a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, it would mean so much to us as we continue to try to build this show and see where it goes here. But thank you for listening if you have been so far. It means the world. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about Baylor. 7.5 is the win total for the Bears this year. Over at minus 105, the under at minus 114. The schedule, when I'm looking at this, John, Dave Aranda's squad, they don't have to play Texas Tech or Iowa State, and they get Arizona State, Kansas State, and Utah all at home this year. We got some big expectations in Waco. But Dave Aranda has not put together back-to-back winning seasons since becoming a head coach. They went 8-5 a year ago. They returned a ton of production, the 9th most returning production in the country, according to Bill Connolly. Like I said, this schedule does set up nicely for them. There's been some injuries already in camp. They just lost their second leading rusher from a year ago. What do you think about Baylor heading into this season?
I got my antennas up on this Baylor team. I'm not a big Aranda guy. I used to be. I used to think that he was the next big thing. I think what he's proven at Baylor is that he can, have a good season, but he can't, kind of put 2 together and really get this program back to where it was, about a decade or so ago. Shout out Bryce Petty, or was that his name?
There you go. Yep.
Yeah. What a guy. But
played for the Jets.
That's right. So here's I think what will kind of indicate my thoughts on Baylor this year. I think Auburn beats them.
I was thinking that too. And that game's in Waco. That is a tough opening 1-2 punch here. They have Auburn at home on a Friday night. Now it's week 1. But then they go at SMU week 2. They get Samford in week 3, and then they have Arizona State. So not exactly an easing into this schedule this year for Baylor. We're going to find out very quickly if this team's legit and if that hype is legit with them or not.
Yeah, they might be 2-2 after that run, and it could be even 1-3. Like I wouldn't be totally stunned with that. And then the Aranda hot seat people are coming right back out with their pitchforks. So I like Sawyer Robertson a lot. I think that Josh Cameron's a stud at wide receiver. Bryson Washington, if you're in the fantasy game at all, he's a guy that's routinely going in the top 5 of fantasy drafts. So he's pretty exciting. But I think that I'm going to stop a little bit short on believing in this Baylor team this year. I think that they are one of those teams that I'm circling to face plant a little bit here at the top of the odds board.
Yeah, so Sawyer Robinson is back, as you mentioned. Great season last year. Could be one of, if not the best quarterback in this conference if everything goes right for him. Threw for over 3,000 yards a year ago and 28 touchdowns. Baylor scored 31 or more points 9 times last season. They returned most of that offense, and they also made some good portal additions too in the offseason. So they're going to be able to score with Robinson leading the offense. My question though, John, is are they going to be able to get stops? Which with Dave Aranda at head coach, I feel like that should not be such a big question, but it is. I mean, the defense has not been great under him, which is kind of surprising. They gave up 28 or more points 8 times last year.
Exactly, like that was his calling card, and like that you couldn't tell, like if you kind of just did like a blind resume. It's like what kind of coach did they bring in? You would not initially say like, oh, he must be a defensive genius of some sorts. Like that just doesn't seem to translate for whatever reason there in Waco. So I think that's going to continue to be a problem. They are like you said, kind of a returning production darling. They rank 15th in returning production on offense, 26th on defense. So on paper it should be great, but Oklahoma State proved last year that returning production doesn't always equate to success in that coming season. So for me on this Baylor team, I consider me a pretty hard skeptic.
So I just pulled up the Baylor schedule for everybody that's watching this show on YouTube. If you're listening on podcasts, we're going through the schedule right now. As we were talking about, they open up with Auburn at home on a Friday night of Labor Day weekend. That's going to be a really interesting game. Can't wait for that one. Then they go to SMU. You got the Samford game in there, and then you play Arizona State at home, Oklahoma State, Kansas State right there. I mean, Baylor is one of these teams that they have to get off to a hot start. They really need to win. I feel I don't want to say that week one's a must win, but I feel like they really need to get that game against Auburn.
The pressure's on. The pressure is like kind of all the way on them. I know that Auburn internally is a little bit cooling off on freeze or what have you, and they've got some hype with. Yeah, I thought that was good, but no, Baylor I think has more legitimate expectations to compete and possibly win their conference than Auburn does this year. If you lose to Auburn, it's just you're at home when you have your chance to kind of like plant your flag against an SEC program, and that doesn't come in. I think that portends like really big trouble, and I think that now that we talk about it more, I do think it's more likely that Baylor starts 1-3 than 3-1.
Yeah, I could see that as well. If a sports book offered that, like a heads or tails kind of thing, Baylor more likely to be 3-1 or 1-3, I would agree with you and go with the 1-3 there, because outside of that Samford game, all 3 of those other ones, I think as of right now, I'd pick the opposition to win that game.
That's right. Same.
All right, so let's move on. Let me remove the Baylor schedule there. Okay, let's talk about Texas Tech. For the Red Raiders, out in Lubbock there, we got an over or 8.5 for a win total for Texas Tech. The over, heavily juiced, -148. The under at +120. A lot of hype in Lubbock this season for Joey McGuire's squad. They did work in the portal. I was going back reading something from February about how Texas Tech wanted to spend $5 million in the transfer portal. They end up spending over $10 million in the portal. I think they had the second best portal class in the country. So this is going to be a really interesting test of the transfer portal. As we see, there's always one team every year. It's just so happened that it's been Florida State each of the past 2 years where we've seen the complete roller coaster. Now you got what's going on here in Texas Tech. I mean, still, though, as I look at Texas Tech and I look at this team and all the hype, I just feel like it's going to come down to the same question I have with a lot of these schools in the Big 12. Can they get stops on defense?
And that I think that a lot of that portal class, was to backfill that side of the ball, because that is an issue. And when you're a program like Texas Tech, like we know that the offense, more likely than not, is going to be a requisite strength for them. They do lose Taj Brooks from that backfield, unfortunately. But yeah, like you're saying, they were the second-ranked portal class behind only LSU, it looks like.
Yep.
And they brought in, I'm blanking on his name, from Georgia Tech, Romello Height from Georgia Tech, the edge rusher. He is a serious dude. You also get David Bailey from Stanford. He looks like he's a stud, top rated guy as far as that transfer haul is concerned. And Texas Tech generally, like the vibe around them is interesting, because they've always been sort of a little brother program within like the state of Texas, let alone the general college football landscape. But now that they can actually leverage the endowment and the amount of money that they have into like doing stuff on the football field, they're kind of walking around with a big chest, and I think a lot of it will kind of manifest itself when their recruiting class is coming up in the next couple of years. But for this year, I'm a little bit cooler on Texas Tech. I do think that they're another one of these teams from the top of the board here. Baylor and Texas Tech are my two side-eye Big 12 teams among the favorites. So I don't know if I necessarily made the most compelling case as to why I'm fading them, but I don't think that Baron Morton has a big arm, and I think that losing Taj Brooks is actually a pretty big deal for them. And you have so many pieces that you're counting on to gel right away. We've seen that go poorly, like you said, with Florida State as an example in the past here. So it's going to take the guys are there, the talent is there, but it's going to take McGuire kind of putting it all together. He's not in that inner circle of trust for me yet.
Yeah, I can't really fault you there for that logic. I mean, the win total, as we mentioned, is at 8.5. Joey McGuire hasn't had more than 8 wins in 3 years as a head coach here. This might be his best team, though, that he's got going on there in Lubbock. Between the portal additions and the players coming back, this is the 6th most returning production in the country, according to Bill Connolly. A lot of this is going to fall on the shoulders and on the arm of Baron Morton, who did have a really nice year last year, John. Over 3,300 yards through the air, 27 touchdowns, just 8 interceptions. I think they're going to be able to score as they always can. Texas Tech, we know they can always put up points, but as I was kind of talking about as we led into this team breakdown, I'm concerned about the defense. Can they get stops? Did you know that according to SP Plus, Texas Tech has not had a top 50 defense in over 15 years? Like, that is not good. Top 50. Now, I'm not talking top 10, top 20, top 30, top 50. They have not been in the top half of the country, really.
So with the magnitude of that sample, it's like part of Texas Tech's brand is just having a bad defense at that point.
Right. And just pure chaos on Saturday, and that's the game that you want to turn on at like 8:30 at night, right? And you just want to see some up and down, great offense. Like Texas Tech is usually the way to go here.
Yeah, you see some tortillas flying around. It's always good stuff.
Absolutely. There we go. So Texas Tech, when we look at their schedule, John, the road schedule is pretty tough here, right? They have to go to Arizona State. They have to go to Utah. They have to go to Kansas State. Joe McGuire is just 6-10 on the road as a head coach. So the returns have not been great there. The good news, though, if you are taking a Texas Tech over ticket, they can go 0-3 in those games, and you can still cash at 9-3 and close out the season. They just have to be perfect in their other 9 games.
And I don't like having to back a Texas team with no margin for error beyond those 3. If we're banking those 3 losses right there, it's like, oh boy, like they are a program that always like messes up once or twice too.
Yeah, so I'll pull up the schedule here for you guys that are watching. They do really ease into this thing, unlike Baylor, right? We got Arkansas, Pine Bluff, then we got Kent State, Oregon State at home. You get 3 games there before you go to Utah on Saturday, September 20th in Week 4.
Right. So I mean, this, and then Houston not going to be like the biggest challenge that they face. So
and they have a bye in between there too.
Right. So it's a backloaded schedule, and ending with UCF and West Virginia. Those are 2 teams that are in the bottom 4 as far as the preseason odds go. But that could look so different by the time that we get to November. Like, what we're playing a lot of what ifs, but like, what if West Virginia? Like, what if Rich Rod, who I think still has the coaching chops, like what if he gets things rolling there? I'm interested to see what he does at quarterback in particular. But going to Morgantown that time of year, that could suck for Texas Tech.
Yeah, it sure could. And as you look at the real meat of that schedule there in the middle, after they have their bye in week 5, you have to go to Houston, and then you got games all right in a row here with Kansas, ASU, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, BYU. That trip to Tempe, Arizona State's coming off a bye there. I'm going to like the Sun Devils, I think, a lot in that spot going into that game. The Kansas State game obviously is going to be tough. The BYU goes to Lubbock, where Texas Tech will be playing their 5th straight game at that point with no bye. BYU is going to be nice and rested off of a bye there. They could potentially slip up at home. Like, this is going to be a really difficult schedule here to navigate, I feel like, if you're going to have an over 8.5 ticket.
Yep. So therefore, consider me the doubter of the butt, Baylor, University, and Texas Tech.
So let's stay in this. We'll clip that. Let's stay in the state of Texas. Let's talk about TCU. If there's one thing we know for sure, a Sonny Dykes team is going to be playing a lot of close games in any given college football season. In 2022, the year they went to the national championship game, they had 5 one-score wins. The next year, they crashed and burned and had 4 one-score losses. Last year, they had a nice season, 4 one-score wins. So we're going to see a handful of one-score games here with TCU, and that automatically makes me not want to go anywhere near their win total. But we're sitting at 6.5 here for the Horned Frogs, heavily juiced to the over at -160. We got a +146 at the under. I mean, I hate doing this, but is this really just going to come down to if they're lucky or not in 2025?
I think that, unfortunately, there's no conference that applies to more than the Big 12. So I feel like TCU is kind of like the poster child of that. And yeah, it gets they run so hot or so cold there at TCU right now under Sonny Dykes. Reasons to like them, Josh Hoover and Eric McAllister, that combination is one of the best in this conference. I think other than the Levitt-Tyson connection, I think that's probably the most automatic one, or the one that people are the most excited about coming into this season. But we'll see what's up as far as their defense is concerned. They are 56 in returning production on that side of the ball. It's going to come down to like you said, they're going to play a lot of close games, and we'll see if they kind of get lucky on those coin flips there.
Yeah, Hoover's great. I mean, he leads one of the best passing attacks in the country, as you were just talking about. But this is the toughest schedule in the Big 12. And when I'm looking at this thing, I can pick out 6 losses when we're doing our little win-loss thing. I mean, that opening game, Labor Day night, is going to be in Chapel Hill. Bill Belichick's first game as a college football coach. North Carolina has to go to UNC. I'm still not quite sure how I'm going to attack that game, if I'm going to attack that game from a betting standpoint. But you got SMU, you got the annual Iron Skillet game, which is always crazy. At Arizona State on a short week on a Friday night, they have to go to Kansas State. At West Virginia, you were just talking about what if Rich Rod has things going on there in Morgantown. At BYU, at Houston as well. I don't think that's a gimme for this TCU squad. This is a difficult schedule here for the Horned Frogs.
Absolutely. So they're sort of in that Baylor, to quote, I guess is Terry Collins, the old Mets manager. Their ass is in the jackpot. You got to go right away. You have to get that win at North Carolina to start your season. Otherwise, we're going to be feeling some type of way about this TCU team, the same way that we're going to be feeling some type of way if Baylor loses to Auburn. So, their feet are up against the fire. I think there's reasons to like them, and it's understandable why they're juiced to the over at that kind of lower total. But, unlike some of these other teams that we've talked about, I'm not interested in an alt total. I like the over 6.5 for TCU, but I don't like it enough to where I'm over 7.5. Absolutely.
Yeah, they even kind of have an unfortunate situation with their buys this season. They have a bye in week 2. So they play that Monday night game, and then they have a bye right after before they play Abilene Christian. So I'm not really high on TCU this year, but they could they could prove us wrong. This school, Sonny Dykes, this coach has he's made magic happen in the past. Let's just put it that way. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Houston. We got to talk about the Willie Fritz year 2 thing that a lot of people have been pointing to, as he has drastically improved his programs wherever he is in the second year. Houston, though, the win total opened up at 6.5. It's down to 5.5 in some spots. People are fading the Cougars here. They do return a good amount of production from a 4-win team that went 1-5 on the road a year ago. The offense, surprisingly, was absolutely abysmal. I think they were outside the top 90 in SP Plus last year. What do you make of the Cougars? I know you said they're one of your blind spots, but you said that it doesn't become a full-on blind spot until bowl season. So regular season, what are you thinking about the Cougs?
Yes, and that was more Holgerson era than
fair.
And gosh, Tom Herman too, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But in the case of Houston this year, Fritz, he has the type of offense where it's hard for the incumbent team to really mold to the type of offense that Fritz likes to run. I go back to the Tulane teams that he had, very run heavy production that way. Houston, I don't think was really built that way necessarily. And there's no one in this backfield that really stands out to me as a bell cow. So they're going to kind of need to cobble that together. But the two kind of headliners for this Houston team that make me think they could be bowl eligible, and I know that people are going to laugh at me immediately, especially in Aggie land when I say this, but I think Connor Weigman is at least an improvement at quarterback for Houston, at the very least. I am a sucker for guys that were 5-star recruits coming out of high school. I have to believe that these guys that are huge talent evaluators at that level, they can't miss that badly. They miss, of course, but I think that Weigman, he needed a change of scenery badly. It obviously didn't work out there in College Station, but I think of getting a fresh start at Houston is something that could kind of revitalize his career. I'm not saying he's going to take them to tremendous heights, but I am saying he could take them to a bowl game, and also love the addition of Tanner Koziol at tight end, one of the most productive tight ends in the country last year, I think, at Ball State. So keep an eye for him being a big part of that passing game.
Yeah, they need him to elevate this offense. I mean, pretty much just him stepping on the field could elevate this offense, because they flat out stunk a year ago. They scored less than 20 points in 9 of their 12 games. That's horrible, especially in the Big 12, to not get to 20 points in 9 of your 12 games. They did allow 20 or less in 6 of those games, but I wonder how much of that was just did other teams just kind of let their foot off the gas, knowing that we just have to get to 20 points and we're going to be able to beat this team? Did a lot in the portal. We got the Willie Fritz second-year bump, but as you were 5.5, 6.5, I still think it's going to be a really tough task for them to get to bowl eligibility.
It is. You're not gonna take them to win 7. You're kind of riding a thin line here, but I think at shops where you can get them at 5.5, and I wrote about this. Our friends over at VSiN had me chip in on their college football betting guide. I did
Nice.
circle Houston at over 5.5 as one of my kind of down the board. Maybe that's not the first thing you're rushing to the window to put down on, but one to keep in mind. I think as far as these win totals are concerned, I do think that Houston finds a way to get to 6.
Yeah, so I just pulled up the schedule here for us. A decent opening. Stephen F. Austin, Rice, Colorado in there. Can you pick out? Have you circled your 6 or 7 wins here for them?
So I think the important thing here, and I know that we just kind of poo-pooed both TCU and Baylor, but the sweatiness and the pressure of the over ticket for Houston lies in the fact that they end the season with TCU and Baylor. We kind of need to get to 6 by the time that they're leaving Orlando with that game against UCF. Otherwise, we could be in trouble. I don't like them to win either at home against TCU or on the road at Baylor. I do think that they are kind of a cut below both of those teams. So you're going to need to rattle off. And if they catch Colorado, and it's good that they're playing Colorado at home as opposed to on the road, that's a big help. If Colorado can't really get its act together as far as what it wants to do at quarterback, that's a big kind of brewing controversy, I think. Or not a bad controversy, but one that's you got to figure it out, Dion, because Caden Salter comes in for them, and he's a certain style of quarterback versus Julian Lewis, who's a different style of quarterback. Like, Colorado kind of has to pick a lane. Catching them in week 3, I think, is actually very helpful for Houston in that sense, and not overly scared of Oregon State there. So if we can get to 3-1 or 4-0 even, which is, I think, on the table leaving September, then we're feeling really good about getting to 6.
Absolutely. All right, one more team we want to talk about. Let's talk about Cincinnati quickly here. John, I don't have a ton on the Bearcats. This is year 3 for Satterfield. It really hasn't gone all that well for him so far there in Cincinnati. Since Luke Fickell left, they've gone 3-9 and then 5-7 a year ago. They do have a good amount of returning talent, made some decent additions in the portal, but I'm looking at this schedule too, and they got some tough breaks as well. They have to go to Utah, at Oklahoma State, at Kansas. They play Iowa State as well here. Sorsby's at quarterback. What do you make of the Bearcats?
I'm a bit of a Sorsby guy. So we have a lot of really fun week 1 games for the Big 12. They might not be like the headliners, like we've talked about elsewhere, like Notre Dame, Miami, or Clemson, LSU, or anything. But to me, Cincinnati, Nebraska is kind of a really interesting bellwether game. Like, we're going to kind of be able to see which way the wind is blowing for both Cincinnati and Nebraska in that game. I think Nebraska on the road there is favored by 6.5. Nippert Stadium, where Cincy plays. Weird stuff can happen there. So I'm not writing off the Bearcats in that week 1 game necessarily, and it's going to be a measuring stick for Nebraska. We kind of talked about that in the Big Ten preview. But, from there, I just think that Sorsby is going to be able to kind of give them a fighting chance pretty much every single week. And if you're a draft Nick, keep an eye on Joe Royer, the tight end. I think he's a guy that started out at Ohio State and really has kind of broken out and been the carrying force of that passing game at Cincinnati. Joe Royer.
So win total for the Bearcats sitting at 6.5, plus 126 to the over on FanDuel, minus 130 to the under. But as we were kind of talking about there, a bit of a tricky schedule for Cincinnati.
Right. So that first game, as much as I'm saying that Cincinnati can make it interesting, I do think that Nebraska wins that game. And from there, you get the tough conference schedule. So, there's a reason why you're getting plus money for them to go over 6.5. So I think that they end up going under here.
All right, so let's close out the show, part 1 of the Big 12 with our quick hits. We're going to do our Week 0 preview, I think, at the end of our second Big 12 show here. But, John, let's do this like we did in the ACC, where we'll each ask each other. I think it's a little better for our clips than the way we did it with the Big 10 there. So, by now, if you guys have been listening, I'll just tell you what we're going to do. We're going to give our champion, our dark horse, our player of the year, coach of the year in the Biggest 12, or in the Big 12. It's the biggest 12, let's be honest here, as we talk about the conference. But, all right, John, your champion in the Big 12 in 2025.
My Big 12 champion is the Utah Utes.
Very nice. Any particular reason?
I believe in the Devin Dampier edition. Do we want to restart the?
Yeah, let's restart. We'll take it back. Let's take it back. All right. Yeah, give a little reasoning for the people. They love the reasoning, so they can pick on us for our Timu analysis, as
Great.
Some people have so wonderfully called us on TikTok. All right, let's start over. John, your Big 12 champion in 2025.
My Big 12 champion is the Utah Utes. I think that Kyle Whittingham is not going out sad, and I think the addition of Devin Dampier and the new offense that they have there at Utah, plus the favorable home schedule, that's going to get us to where we need to be. So Utah, with Heisman dark horse Devin Dampier, going to get it done this year.
I like that, and I can't see Whittingham having 2 bad years in a row here as they enter this conference. Your dark horse in the Big 12.
It's Kansas. I think that they are the team that just has your Ryan Kalkbrenners, or I guess the better Kansas analog would be Perry Ellis. Like, Jalen Daniels still in college, still running the show there. I think that Kansas is just they're slept on. They're right in that middle there. They're not in that top tier with the first 6, but they're certainly not a bottom feeder like we're expecting OK State or UCF. So everyone's just kind of glossing over this Jalen Daniels-led team. If he can stay healthy, Kansas is a serious team that can get to 9 wins.
Stadium's finally finished, right? 2?
And they just got a sweet gift of $300 million buckaroonies. So, I mean, vibes are high in Lawrence.
All right. Player of the year in the Big 12.
I'm a big believer in Devin Dampier, but give me Jordan Tyson. That guy,
Like that.
He moves the needle for me. He moves me.
Absolutely. Coach of the year.
Give me Lance Leipold. Marry up my dark horse and my coach of the year. I think that this will be the proverbial. Is this Lance Leipold's best coaching job? Yes.
And finally, your disappointment in the Big 12.
I think Texas Tech falls on their face. I think that it goes wrong for them. Baylor a honorable mention again. So I'm out on Baylor and Texas Tech among these kind of buzzy potential favorites, potential conference winners here in the Big 12.
There you go. Put that on your tortilla and roll a burrito out of it,
folks. All right, Waddy, we got to run this back on your side. So, Big 12 no huddle for you starting off. Who is your Big 12 champ?
Forks up. We're going with the repeat, Arizona State. Like I was talking about, I love this school for just no reason whatsoever. I love this team. So much returning production. I do think they will be able to just about fill the void of Scadaboo, at least in the production standpoint. Maybe not in heart and soul, but Sam Leavitt poised for a huge year as well. Give me ASU and Kenny D.
Love it. I like in a chaotic conference. It'd be amazing to see Arizona State win it back-to-back years. Who's your dark horse team in the Big 12?
All right, don't laugh, but this is the dark horse, right? Oklahoma State.
Hey.
Doubt Mike Gundy if you dare. Leave him for dead if you dare. I think he will figure things out. The mullet knows. Let's be honest. The mullet knows. I like their schedule. I do think we're going to see a nice bounce back in Stillwater after a disappointing season last year.
There is something to be said for the years where no one is talking about Oklahoma State. That's when they kind of come to life, and whenever they have a modicum of expectations, boy, do they crap the bed. But they don't have any expectations this year. Second lowest odds to win the Big 12.
And I'm not saying they're going to be in Arlington. I'm just saying I think they're going to be very respectable this season.
Give some teams some a run for their money a lot of the time. I can definitely see that. I like that call a lot for OK State. Your player of the year in the Big 12.
I mean, mine goes hand in hand with yours, so I'm going Sam Leavitt. I think Sam's going to have a monster year. I think I ranked him my third best quarterback in the country, so I think that means I got to make him the Big 12 player of the year, especially if Arizona State's going to go back and win this conference like I think they will.
I'm sensing a theme, but let's hear it. Who's your coach of the year?
Yeah, I'm actually going to surprise you on this one. I'm going Kyle Whittingham from Utah. I think this is going to be one of those things where, yes, I think Utah is going to make the championship game, and I feel like this is going to be one of those things where I think whoever votes on these is going to be there's no way we could have had Kyle Whittingham in our conference and not given him a coach of the year. So give me Whit to win the coach of the year, rolling out on that motorcycle.
Love that call. Never a bad idea, except for last year, to roll with Whit. And rounding us out here, who is going to be the disappointment of the Big 12 this year?
Now, I'm not saying this team is going to be bad, but I do see a scenario where they are not making the conference championship game, and they are the co-favorite going into the season. That's Kansas State. I have Kansas State as my biggest disappointment. I do think they're going to fall short of their expectations. Kleiman's a great coach, don't get me wrong, but I just have questions about this defense. I think they missed the conference championship game by a few games here and are not up at the top of the conference standings at the end of the year.
Avery Johnson's got to prove it at some point, right? We have all the hype in the world about this guy, and we've yet to see it fully come together over the course of an entire season. Do you think it just kind of last grab bag question? This doesn't have to fit in the no huddle. Does anyone disappoint as bad as Arizona did a year ago?
Oof,
is that even
that's
possible?
Tough. I don't know if that's possible.
I don't think so either. Actually, upon further review. No one is getting the hype that Arizona did last season, where it's oh baby, Fafita, T-Mac, it's going to be great. It was not great. It was really, really bad actually for Arizona.
It was really tough. I mean, Jed Fish left and it just became a total mess. So, all right, that's going to do it for part one of our Big 12 preview. Look at that. We're getting out of here in under an hour. That is what we were shooting for. We will be back with Big 12 preview part part 2 later on this weekend. I think that'll be up either late Sunday night or Monday morning for you guys, where we will also dive into some of those week 0 games, because we got to talk about Farmageddon in Ireland, Iowa State, Kansas. We'll talk about all those teams, Oklahoma State as well, coming up in part 2. But thank you so much for listening or watching. Hit that subscribe button. It would mean the world to us, and tell a friend as we get closer and closer here to college football season. John, thanks, buddy.
Absolutely, man. Cheers. Big 12, chaos.
Let's go.